Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life with best-selling author and coach Kathy Williams, a show to help you tap into the support of the universe and access the abundance that's available in every area of your life. Listen in for conversations and tools to create more ease, joy, and possibility with family, relationships, business, and living. Kathy's joyful perspective will help you tap into your own wisdom and create a life of presence and abundance.
Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and isn't it fascinating times we're living in? Wow, and today we're going to talk about immunity, ancient wisdom to help us keep our immunity up, and also the greatest immunity there is. So, hopefully, all of you are well and just want to stay that way. If you're not, take care of yourself. And I remember one of the things I used to do that was kind of terrible when I was sick is I would look at Louise Hay's book. What is it called? Like the little book with the list of conditions and the affirmation to say, like love your body or something like that was the name of the book. And it would have, oh, you have back pain? Well, it's this, and you need to say this after affirmation. And I would almost make myself wrong for whatever, because obviously I created it, right? So I would add insult to injury by making myself wrong and bad and terrible for creating whatever illness I had. And that did not actually help. So and I was working with a client the other day who had a situation in her life, and she was like, Kathy, I attracted this and I keep attracting this. And she kept making herself wrong for it. And I was like, okay, well, let's take a step back from that and just acknowledge that you're a powerful creator and that there is a gift here. You may not know exactly what it is yet, but there is a gift here, so let's explore this. And as the world kind of goes into its panic about coronavirus and all of this, we can start to ask ourselves as a collective, what is the gift here? And one of the beautiful things, that I've noticed about this is the fact that the world, if we were to see a yin yang, or as a child I used to say a yin yang, right, with the black part and the white part and the white dot in the black and the black dot in the white, and that balance of like inwardness, outwardness. Well, our society, our planet has become a very young, a very outward, dissipate the energy, get things done type planet. And that's okay, as long as there's also the balance of inwardness and gestation and rest. And so it's almost like collectively we're being called to a time of gestation and rebalancing and rest. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We all need that. But we sleep at night. The planet has winter. And it creates harmony to have that. So today, as we embark on this journey of immunity and things we can do to boost immunity, I'm going to invite your questions. If you're listening live, I'd love to hear from you. If you're listening in the future, you can always reach out to me at meetkathywilliams.com. Totally happy to hear your ideas for shows, your ideas about the shows, And also, under the YouTube videos and under, all the things, you can usually comment too and ask your questions. So I read all of that. Um, so where to begin? Well, I'm going to begin with some ancient wisdom, and then later we'll go to some exercises for immunity. Super simple things, amazing things. And one involves a spoon, like a stainless steel spoon. You've got one of those, I bet. And then we'll go kind of to the greatest immunity there is. And you've got it. Okay. So I studied Ayurveda for a long time. I went to Ayurveda school, and Ayurveda is kind of considered the sister science to yoga. So the science of how to live longer, how to stay healthy, how to digest well, all of these things. And if you've ever explored that, or TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, you'll notice that they have a lot of rules. Right. And there came a point at which I became kind of overwhelmed by rules. And then as I pulled back and took a break for a couple of years, I realized these are not rules. They're guidelines, they're suggestions, they're observations about how you can stay in harmony, in balance. Like that whole yin yang idea, where if you get too far in one direction, and we've done it ourselves in our lives, like maybe not sleeping enough for a week, and then you feel it, right? Or overeating, we're too far in a certain direction, we feel it, right? So it's just about creating harmony. So if I say feels off to you, explore what there is for you in that, and do what feels right. Okay. And that's your own awareness. And notice if you do have resistance to something, because oftentimes there's a gift there, like, oh, I have resistance because of this situation when I was 12 and my mom didn't let me do what I wanted to do. Right. Okay. So in Ayurveda, it's considered that what you take in not only physically, like food and beverage, wine, water, celery, soup, ice cream, whatever, but also what you take in through all your senses, what you take in auditorily and visually, and even what you take in through your skin is either nourishing for you or kind of toxic for you. So we can kind of reflect on, like, all right, well, what am I taking in visually? Am I watching and reading fear-based things? Am I listening to beautiful music or the birds? Or am I listening to people talk about what's scary, or listening to lawnmowers, right? Things that are dissonant or jarring to the nervous system. What kind of scents am I taking in? Are they natural? Like, it's really funny. I have my mom visiting, and she can leave. I was about to say she can't leave. I live on the island of Maui in Hawaii, and she is choosing not to leave because of this virus and being at the airport, understandably. And she got this Renuzit, I don't know if that's how you say it, but air fragrance thing. Like, and I went into my bedroom and I was like, oh my God, what is in here? What did she spray in here? And for like 2 days, because we have this new cat who's only in my bedroom at this point. And so for 2 days, I was like trying to air out the room because my body didn't like the chemicals. And then I said, Mom, what did you put in my room? And she goes, oh, it's this thing. And she says, but it says it's natural. my body knows that that ain't natural, right? Like I was feeling not a headache, but a little bit, off. And so it's like, what are we choosing to feed ourselves on every level in terms of our senses? And then what are we choosing to feed ourselves in through our mouth? And Ayurveda and I believe Chinese medicine as well, um, consider that immunity begins in the gut. Immunity begins with what you can digest. Okay, and that's true also also with your emotions and with what you're taking in. If you are taking in too much fear-based information, you can't actually digest that, if you're taking in too much. Okay? So we have metabolism, on a cellular level, but we also have metabolism on an intellectual or an emotional level. If something's super intense, we have to have some space to be able to digest that. If we're eating too much, our body can't actually really effortlessly digest that, which is why we get sleepy after Thanksgiving dinner. So if, health begins in the gut and we're taking in too many things that we can't digest, whether that's because we're overeating or because we're kind of eating while watching TV, and so we're eating really fast. Digestion begins in the mouth with saliva, right? So if you're not actually chewing your food, then you're not digesting as well as you can. So first, we become aware of, what am I taking in? Is it too much for me to really digest? If so, we get to do the medication of subtraction. Okay, let me keep the news off for a while. I mean, maybe reading the newspaper is okay for you. Maybe listening to NPR for an hour is fine for you, but not for 6 hours a day, right? Or maybe talking with your mother is a little bit too much on a daily basis, right? So the medication of subtraction, is this thing wasting or dissipating my energy? Or is it feeding me? Is it nourishing me? And so as we look at what we're taking in, sugar decreases immunity, right? Like sugar and inflammation already creates a battlefield in your body. Like, let's say I have a lot of inflammation. Well, my body is busy fighting, right? It's busy trying to heal and repair whatever's going on. If I add to that by eating a lot of sugar, that increases the inflammation. So my body is already working hard to work with what is, and then we add all of these extra things like fear-based information or too much food or exposure to bacteria and things like that. All right. So the more we can decrease inflammation in the body, the easier it is on our body, so it can be prepared to fight other things if necessary, right? When it's necessary. All right, so some people say 80% of the immune system is in the gut. I'm not really sure that that number is true. It's really fun to make up statistics, okay? But, I had a friend, Dr. Claudia Welch, in Ayurveda school, and she said a full third of the nervous system is in the gut. So if I'm agitated, let's say I'm watching, I'm NBC, and I'm watching the news and I'm trying to eat my meal at the same time, like I'm already agitated. How well am I going to digest if I'm agitated and nervous and all of those things? Not going to digest as well as I can. All right. So part of it is our mental space, how calm we are, how much we chew our food. You've probably heard you need to chew anywhere between 30 and 100 times, like until your food is liquid, to begin that phase of digestion. Now, again, I mentioned in the beginning, like, don't take any of this as rules. Just see how it works for you. Right? So beginning that digestive process and really being aware of that if you don't tend to digest well, or if you think you have weak immunity, maybe adding things like ginger, having a little more ginger in your food, or a little ginger tea before you eat, and then being aware of the portion. Does it fill my 2 hands? Is it way more than that? Becoming aware. A lot of us are inside right now doing social distancing. So could it be a time for more mindfulness in regard to, okay, when I eat this thing, how do I feel? When I eat this other thing, how do I feel about that? And developing awareness in regard to, oh yeah, when I eat a bunch of cookies, I actually don't feel so good. 1 seems to work for me, but 7 doesn't really. Or, oh, yeah, I know that, a lot of times we think, oh, this thing is good for me, therefore I should eat it. Maybe, oh, spinach salad is good for me, therefore I should have it. And when really your body doesn't love that. So a time for recognizing, hey, what seems to work and what doesn't, and letting your own awareness guide that more than anything. So we're gonna go into some different little exercises you can do in regard to immunity, and obviously don't disregard like the common sense things like wash your hands, but there's a trick after that as well. And then we'll go into the greatest immunity there is in the rest of the show. So thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, and I'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. I'm your host, Kathy Williams, and we are talking about immunity. And so far, that digestion and immunity begins in the gut, or wellness begins in the gut, although it actually kind of begins with what you take in. But then how much of that you can digest is super important, right? Taking in anything, overstimulus of noise, or overstimulus of emotion, or overstimulus of too much food, right? They all can start to wear on us. And so being aware of that, like what really is an appropriate amount for me. And so let's talk a little bit about sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic balance. And just before we go there, because I know these are weird words for some of you, however, it has super practical implications in your life, in your everyday life, in your ability to stay well. But before we go there, just an invitation to come over to meetkathywilliams.com. There you can get the show notes for today's show with a checklist of all these different things. Like you'll be like, oh yeah, I do these 3 things, but that I can really add that to my life and see what difference it makes. Especially in this time of like not only heightened precaution, but heightened fear. And fear is one of those things that also tends to weaken immunity. And there's a book that's really profound in terms of this. Actually, I'm kind of thinking about 2 books. One book that's coming to mind is called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. But people do, right? And then the other book that I really would love to recommend is called Balance Your Hormones, Balance Your Life. I think that's the name of it. Shoot, I'll look it up. By Dr. Claudia Welch. And she talks about the interrelationship between like juicy, yummy hormones like sex hormones and endorphins and things like that. And then the stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, all those things, and how they have this dance between the two of them. It's a fascinating read. It also gives a lot of great suggestions for staying in balance and staying well throughout. It's created for women, so throughout your life, like through perimenopause and through all of it. So I highly recommend that book. And so let's just talk a little bit about like the principles of yin and yang. And in yoga, if you've studied yoga, you can just replace the words brahmana and lagana. They're exactly the same. So yin is sort of feminine, inwardness, grounded, calming, nourishing. And yang is sort of masculine, outward, active, stimulating, motivating. And so we live in this world that's sort of a yang world for the most part, with ambition and striving and all of that. And when I say yin is feminine and yang is masculine, that doesn't mean women are only yin and men are only yang. No. Okay. And in fact, in today's world, many, many, many women are primarily yang, outward, striving, all those things. So we're just talking in concepts right now. And so if we're living in an outward, striving, active world, right, then what happens is our nervous system gets a little amped up. Okay. And if you've ever noticed like yourself starting to breathe quickly, or your body sort of getting activated to, let's say you have the stress response, right? Stress response, we often consider fight or flight. And sometimes people say freeze as well. So fight, flight, or freeze, where you're activated to hit something or run from the tiger, or freeze, like, and be really still. Maybe if someone's like breaking into your house, you're going to be super still, like, so they don't see you. Okay, now that is all very evolutionarily really good and important, right, to keep us alive. Here's the thing: when we're watching the news and it's talking about this virus and stays on surfaces for 9 days and all this blah blah, like, we don't hit the TV, we don't run, right? We don't freeze, or maybe we do, right? But our nervous system, our sympathetic nervous system is activated. Okay? And then we don't dissipate that by exercising, okay? Or breathing slowly to calm down. We generally don't do that. So we're walking around in sympathetic overdrive, where we haven't actually burned off or changed our state. So we come back to the relaxation response, right? The relaxation response is calm, cool, relaxed, feel safe. Sympathetic overdrive is muscles are activated to run or hit something. Okay? Heartbeat speeds up. Okay. Blood leaves the digestive and reproductive organs so that it's ready to move the muscles. Okay. So if we're able to find ways to calm ourselves in the midst of that stress, we have better immunity, right? Because blood is coming back to the digestive organs. And our whole conversation in the beginning of the show was about health begins in the gut. Okay? So blood is coming back to the organs of digestion. Blood is coming back to the reproductive organs. The heart slows down. The lungs are calmer. All right. And so how do we do this? Well, exercise would be one of those ways, right? Okay, good reason to, if you're going to listen to the news, to listen while you're running on the treadmill, right? Or doing the elliptical, because you're moving that energy, building endorphins also. Now, another super, super simple way of calming the nervous system is to slow down your breathing. And this is one of the huge benefits of pranayama in yoga, breathing exercises to calm the nervous system, slow the body, bring the blood back to the digestive organs, and also actually back to the frontal lobe of the brain, because our amygdala, that lizard brain in a way, is what is active when we're in fear. Okay? So I'm going to share two things to really quickly bring the blood back. And pranayama, breathing. So you might start with, okay, let me notice what my inhale is, just the second. Okay, most people's inhale is going to be between 1 and 2 seconds. And just by bringing your attention to it, it's probably a little slower than it was a moment ago. Okay, so could you guide it to 4 or 6 seconds? Inhaling to a count of 4 or 6. And then exhaling, matching the inhale. All right, so if your inhale is 4, your exhale will be 4. So we're just gradually lengthening the breath. We're not pushing the breath to, 18 seconds on the inhale and exhale, because the muscles of respiration, just like any muscle, require development, right? You're not going to go out and pick up the 500-pound weight because you haven't trained for that. So we're going to build the inhale and the exhale little by little. So as you start to breathe at that rhythm for a little while, then you can add 2 counts to your inhale and 2 to the exhale. So if I was at 4, maybe I'm at 6 now. Now, if you ever feel strain or stress, you're going to back off to the level that felt appropriate to you. Why is that? Well, again, if I'm trying to lift, 25 pounds with my bicep, and that's too much, then I'm going to back off. Oh, 22 works for me. Okay. And then next week, I can probably do, the heavier weight. Right. So then as you start to become aware of the rhythm that works for you, we're just going to become alert to the pauses at the top of your inhale and after your exhale. So let's say you're inhaling to a count of 6 or 8. Just going to pause 2 before you exhale at the same rhythm as your inhale. And then you pause 2 there. So you're inhaling, retaining the breath, and then exhaling and suspending the breath out. Now, the thing is, as you do this and you feel the ribs widening and lifting on inhale, and the belly gathering in to support your back as you exhale, you got to keep your throat really soft, your jaw soft, your eyes soft. Okay? And if you were doing this to settle even more, like let's say you want to go to sleep, then you can make your exhale a little bit longer than your inhale. But if you'd like to be alert and still have a lot of energy and go through your day, then you're going to match your inhale and exhale. So there's a whole science behind the breath, because the yogis long ago had the breath, they had, nature, they were aware of that. They didn't have the internet, telephones, a whole lot of distraction. So they became very aware of the effect that the breath has on things, right? So inhale matching exhale tends to have a more energetic effect, energizing effect, than exhale longer than inhale. If your exhale is longer than inhale, it tends to have a more calming effect. Okay? And then there are all sorts of different practices once if you really get into it, about alternate nostril breathing and one nostril breathing, different things that are really fascinating and have different effects on the nervous system. And when I was learning all of this, like 15 years ago, There was a woman who, a scientist for a pharmaceutical company in the class, and she said, we are doing with the breath what many of these drugs are designed to do. They affect the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. All right. So I'm not going to say that. I can't, I can't make any claims in regard to what the breath does here, but it does calm the nervous system. And I'm just telling you what she said about it. All right. If you'd like to know more about calming the nervous system with yoga and with breathing, I am going to have an online class series, first for a week and then for a month, coming up, because, you know, most of us are not going out. So it's nice to be able to learn some techniques that are going to benefit you your entire life, in regard to calming the nervous system, emotional resilience, and stuff like that. And actually, that's one of the things that the breath can help with as well, emotional resiliency, right? If I'm calm, I'm less reactive. If I'm less reactive, I get less freaked out about, you know, what anybody says, less resistance. Another thing I wanted to talk about, that's a super simple exercise, is when you're having stress, putting the pads of your fingers on your frontal neurovasculars. That's a really fancy way of saying put the pads of your fingers right above your eyebrows. And then if you want, you could put your thumbs on your temples. So the pads of your fingers are right above your forehead, right above your eyebrows on the forehead. Your thumbs are on your temples, and you just breathe. And you can do this if you're under any stressor. In fact, if you have a trauma, I've led a lot of people through things like this. If you have a trauma that's bothered you for a long time, you can do this sort of thing and allow the trauma and the triggers from that memory to dissipate. So a really fast way of calming and soothing the nervous system. And you just stay with that a few minutes, keeping your fingers there. It's so great for children as well. I was at my child's friend's house, and the little boy there started to freak out. And I did a few of these things with him, and he totally calmed down, and the whole thing dissipated. And his dad was just like, "What'd you just do?" It's like a miracle. And I said, "Yep." Right? And you can learn it too, because it's super simple. Fingers on the front of the forehead, thumbs on the temples. You can do it on someone else as well. Another one, really easy. I will put this as its own separate video on YouTube, and it's also part of my program that in my website shop called Clear, Calm, and Connected, is tracing your triple warmer meridian. That's the meridian that starts at your ring finger, at the tip of your ring finger, and goes right above your ear to the temple, tracing that meridian backwards. So just taking your left hand over to the right temple, and then tracing around the ear with your fingertips, down across the shoulder, and out the fourth finger. And doing that a couple of times, it's like magic. So check out my YouTube video for that. That way, you know, you'll see it. And super simple thing to do when you're in stress and you do that. If you're sensitive, you will notice a huge difference. So one of my huge favorite go-tos is tracing the triple warmer meridian backwards. All right, when we come back, I'll talk about the greatest immunity and also a couple more exercises to keep your immune system up. Thanks so much for listening, everyone, to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and the conversation today is about immunity. So we've talked about calming the nervous system, and creating parasympathetic sympathetic balance instead of letting your fight or flight response run away, run rampant. And that's kind of what is happening a lot in the world right now, right? People getting so nervous, fearful that they're fighting over toilet paper. I mean, really. And honestly, like one of the things that kills people the most is stress, right? Just in terms of like, stress is a major contributor of heart disease and major contributor for a lot of things. So helping to keep the stress in check by slowing our breathing, by using those neurovascular points, which I talked about, by the medication of subtraction. So cutting away things that are dissipating or wasting our energy, adding things that are feeding us or nourishing us, and really asking those two questions, like, is this dissipating my energy? Is this useful? Is this nourishing me? And so those questions invite our awareness to tell us. And awareness is actually the greatest immunity. Why? Because if we're trusting ourselves and trusting our awareness, right, we'll know not to interact with this person, maybe even before they know they're sick, right? We'll know not to interact with them, not to shake their hand. We'll know that this is an okay thing to touch or an okay place to go, right? By just trusting our own gut, by just being aware and using our awareness. Yeah. And that is stimulated by questions, right? Questioning, asking, oh, wait, can I actually digest this? Is this actually good for me? Okay. Are these garlic pills really going to make a difference for me? Right now, a book may say they will, the government may say you should do something or not do something. I mean, and you also get to check in with yourself. Is this useful for me right now? And learning to trust that, and learning to stop listening to the inner voice that says, oh, rest is unimportant, or rest means that I'm lazy, right? We have a lot of chatter that tells us certain things, and a lot of that's just conditioning, right? So what rejuvenates me? What would boost my immunity? What do I need to let go of or stop? What can I add? And that's one reason I love journaling, is because asking these questions and then writing allows us to kind of go deeper than the surface answer. Because sometimes our head thinks it knows. And then if we go a little deeper and write a little bit more and tap in a little bit more, like, we uncover layers of what we know that we weren't willing to acknowledge. Like, oh, my grandma used to make this wonderful elderberry tea. I would really love to have some of that. I was doing this and I realized, oh, I really love, now don't go buy it all, everybody. I really love this tea called longevity tea. My body feels amazing when I take that. And so just looking and tapping into your own awareness about, am I getting enough sleep? Am I getting enough movement? What could I add? Right? What can I take away? What would help me expand my sense of well-being? In Ayurveda, well-being or immunity is related to this thing called ojas. And ojas, if I could come up with a word that describes it. It's like nectar or honey, like this super fine essence of like, you've eaten, you've digested, you have this yummy presence that's part of your body. All right. And that is really also fed by love. Right? You can tell when someone's in love or when someone feels really loved because they have sort of a glow. Well, that's the glow of ojas, and that is also considered linked to immunity. So maybe a question would be, how could I add to my sense of love and well-being? What qualities, what activities, what connections could I add to my life? And what could I let go of? And just inviting your own awareness, because again, your awareness is your greatest immunity. Your awareness says, do this, don't do this. Your awareness says, go here, don't go there. Your awareness. And getting in touch with that, whether it's through sitting and asking questions, whether it's through intuition training, and we've had a show on that. So you can find that on YouTube or in the archives on Om Times Radio. Finding a way to tap into your own awareness in regard to whatever anyone's saying. Does that feel correct to me? Okay. Okay, so if not, what other questions could I ask then? Right? Because sometimes a heaviness or that doesn't sit with me well does not mean no. It just means time to ask another question. What other information is here for me? So what beautiful opportunity is this right now on planet Earth for us to look more at, okay, how can I live a life that's more in harmony with nature, with rhythms, with my own truth, what's true for me? How can I live in a more aligned way and not make myself wrong for anything in the past, but just tap into what rejuvenates me, what is in harmony, what activities aren't in harmony, what can I let go of, what can I add? Maybe it's adding a 5-minute breathing practice every day. Yeah, my teacher, yoga teacher, Gary Craftso, travels the globe teaching about yoga. And one of the things that he thinks is very emphasized is the breathing practice. Dr. David Frawley considers breathing like the medicine, the thing that impacts the physiology, the part of yoga that does that. And Gary Craftso used to say, so 5 minutes of breathing will increase your immunity. It will make you digest better. You'll have a more hormonal balance. You will also be calmer, have a better and less emotional reactivity, greater focus, and you won't do it. Okay? You won't do it. You won't do 5 minutes of breathing because it's boring. And that's the poke he used to give to us. Like, you know what? It's going to do all these things for you, but you won't do it. So anyway, there was this woman and she said, well, I'm going to prove him wrong. Like, I don't believe this, that it's going to have all those effects. So she went and she did her 5 minutes of breathing. I think maybe even 10 she did, but 5 at least. And she came back like a year or two later and she said, I was going to prove you wrong that 5 minutes of breathing didn't do all that stuff. But you know what? You're right. It changed my life to breathe consciously and slowly for 5 minutes a day. And if you think about it, how many 5 minutes do we waste on Facebook or worrying about something? You know, I mean, 5 minutes of breathing is going to make you calmer, and then you can actually, you know, come to your own clarity a lot faster. We're so cute because we'll avoid doing it because it's not one of those things you can see results like, oh, like results, like six-pack abs or something like that. It's much more internal, but it has amazing effect on your life. Like the results will come, they'll just be different. They just don't show up on your body as something someone else could say. But they may be saying, hey, you're a lot calmer than you used to be. I remember my dad said that to me at one point. You're a lot calmer than you used to be. Yeah, been doing my 5 minutes of breathing. And so, you know, it may begin with 2 minutes. 2 minutes in bed in the morning. 2 minutes as you go to sleep. Yeah. Something like that. So as we, well, and this is just also an invitation to join me, because I will be teaching some different breathing practices, both over the course of a month, but also next week. And you find out all about that at meetkathywilliams.com/upcoming. There are also lots of YouTube videos you can find about breathing. Usually they're a little bit disjunct, like it's just going to show you the practice and not show you what leads up to it or whatnot. But you know, finding what kind of lights you up, because if you find one that lights you up, because there are many different breathing practices, you will do it. Just like the show I did on meditation. Meditation is amazing for being calm, clear, focused, better immunity. There have been scientific studies that show you this. And you won't do it unless it's something that actually engages you. And there are hundreds of different ways of, if not thousands, of ways of meditating. So find one that you'll do. Find one that you like, because it will make your life better. Okay. So as we go into this world of uncertainty and, you know, some unrest, how can you be your own kind of inner parent, caring, nurturing, cradling, reassuring yourself? And what kind of things would support you in that? Things for your body, things for your mind, things for your emotions, things for your spiritual life. You know, what would support you in feeling nurtured, nourished? Maybe journaling, you know, whatever it is. And then, you know, in terms of herbs or nutrients, things, you know, just constantly in the curiosity of that. What can I choose today that's going to support me in being well on every level? And if I can be a support to you in that, let me know. Whether it's an idea for a radio show or having a private session in which we discuss different things, or creating a little yoga practice. And above all, how loving can you be to yourself and even to the fear? Not trying to push it away, just, I receive you and it's okay. Right? Unprecedented times, as many are saying, yet we never know the future. So how much can we just roll with what is, receiving the gifts from it? And even asking, what is the gift of this for me in my life and for the planet? All right, everyone. Find me in the upcoming classes at meetkathywilliams.com and /upcoming for all the things that are coming up, including Ho'oponopono. Thanks so much for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. And I'll see you next Thursday. If you can't wait that long, find me on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and anywhere else you like to listen. All right. See you and aloha. Be well, everybody.